today?
Cookies. Thanks, Miss Julie.
You're welcome. Do you guys like cookies?
Yes.
Yeah, I got nice snacks today, cookies and drinks. What's the news today?
Oh, the news today that there's a wedding.
There's a wedding?
Mm-hmm.
What happened at the wedding?
Somebody had wine, then forgot wine.
Say
It's all in the news.
It's all in the news? Oh, all right. Well, we'll read that story later. You know, there's a story in the Bible about Jesus turning water into wine.
Really?
Yeah, that was his very first miracle.
What in the world is wine?
Wine is a drink that people drank at weddings. People still drink wine at weddings. Even today they do. You know that?
No.
There's a story in John chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. Let me read the story and then I'll tell you all about it. And we'll see if it matches the news story. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Wow. Jesus was there.
Mary.
Yeah, Jesus was at a wedding and his mother was there. Jesus was invited to a wedding. Can you believe it? Anyway, now both Jesus and his disciples were involved in the wedding. So now you have Jesus, his mother, and
The disciples.
12 disciples. That's 14 people were invited to the wedding. Turning into a pretty big event, huh?
Yeah.
And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine?
What?
Yeah. She thought, what in the world? They always had wine, but these people ran out of wine. So she was really worried. She thought, oh boy, I hope my son can fix this. So Jesus said to her, woman, what does your concern have to do with me? He was saying, why are you asking me to fix the wine? Well, Mary probably knew that Jesus could just fix it right away. But anyway, Jesus said, what does it have to do with me? My hour is not yet come, meaning he wasn't going to show people how powerful he was yet. But Mary knew how powerful he was, didn't she? Because she knew he was the Son of God. So his mother said to the servants, whatever he says, do it. So she told everybody there, if he says to do something, you do it. It says, now there were set there 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons of water apiece. Whoa.
So that's what the
Like
water.
this. Yeah, a big, huge pot of water. Jesus said to them, they were empty. Jesus said, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim, just like this, right up to the top. And he said to them, draw out some water now and take it to the master of the feast. And they took it. And when the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, he did not know where it came from. But the servants who had drawn the water knew. The master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk,
What is wine?
then they put out the inferior wine. You have kept this good wine until now. This is the beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So, I guess we can all have drinks. I only brought the water. I forgot. What are we going to do now? I don't have any good drinks. Do you think we should pour the water in?
Uh-huh.
I guess. This is good water from home.
What is it?
You know how our water at church tastes kind of icky.
What? Yeah.
This is good water. But if we were at the wedding with Jesus, guess what it would have been?
What?
It would be
What?
wine.
Oh, it smells good.
It's good wine.
It's beautiful and pink.
It's beautiful. Try it. Try it.
Smells like strawberries.
It does. Try it.
Will it taste like strawberries? It looks like punch.
Try it. Try it and see.
But will it taste like strawberries?
Well, try it and see.
It's good, Julie.
This is the very first miracle that Jesus did. And he did it while he was at a wedding.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
it says this is the first of many stories suggesting that Jesus was always welcome among those having a good time. Jesus didn't spoil the good time. Do you think if you were having a party here, it would spoil it if Jesus was here?
No.
No, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And then what happened at the wedding? They ran out of wine. Oh boy.
This is
Can you
wine?
imagine? So if you were at a wedding and they had all the nice food and all the good stuff to eat and they didn't have any drinks, wouldn't that be kind of Kind of a bummer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So Jesus
or any
is...
cake.
Yeah. So Jesus' mother was pretty upset that the wine had run out, and she's like, "Oh, somebody needs to fix this." So Jesus told his mother, "You know what? I don't know if I'm really ready to do miracles yet in front of everybody." But his mother knew that he would fix the wine problem.
Yeah.
So she told the servant, "Whatever Jesus says to do, do it. Just follow his directions." So the next thing that happened, there was 6 water pots of stone. They were much bigger than these. It says they held like, I think they held like 30 gallons or something. It was a lot of water. And so Jesus began his miracle by saying, let's use what we have. We have these water pots and we have water. So let's start with that. Do you think he ever does that in your life? Uses what you have to perform a miracle so that you can believe? I think he probably does. So the servants were in a unique place because they were going to be part of this message. They were going to be part of this miracle if they followed Jesus' directions.
The disciples?
The disciples were there at the wedding, but it says the servants. So these were people that worked for the people who were getting married. So they decided that they would listen to Mary and they would listen to Jesus. Now, if Jesus was going to do a miracle in your life and he told you to do something, do you think you'd do it?
Yes. I would just ignore him.
Yeah, well, some people might not have believed it. I wonder if there was some servants that didn't help. But some servant says, we're going to do what Mary said, and we're going to go along with what Jesus says, and we're going to take these water pots, and we're going to fill them right to the brim, all the way to the top, just like that one was. They didn't just fill them part way, because if they would have only filled them part way,
it wouldn't be enough for all the people.
Right, it wouldn't have been as much of a miracle, right? So Jesus wanted the cooperation of all the men in this miracle. He could have filled the pots himself. He could have just as easily gone and made wine fill up everybody's cup. He didn't do that.
What did he do? He just turned wine. He just turned rocks into wine.
He turned water into wine. Let's read the rest of the story. He knew that if the servants shared in the work, then they also would share in the blessing. That's pretty cool, right? Sometimes if there's things that God might want you to do, if you do what he says, you get to have a benefit in that. It makes you feel better as a person. It makes you feel like you did something that God wanted. The servants were especially blessed because they obeyed without question to the fullest. Remember, they filled it all the way to the brim. They didn't just do it halfway.
Like this?
Yeah, it would have been easier to carry if they would have only just filled it halfway.
Yeah, but it would be so heavy that you would drop it.
They filled it all the way to the top, like Jesus said.
What if God did this?
You know another reason I think Jesus had them fill it all the way to the top?
Why?
So that way all the servants knew that there wasn't already wine in those big containers.
These are cool.
There wasn't already wine that Jesus was just adding to. They were empty. So he had them fill them with water all the way to the top. So all the servants knew that they had filled them with just water all the way to the brim. This means the miracle would be fulfilled to the greatest measure possible. If they were lazy and only filled the water pots half full, there would have only been half as much wine, just like you said. Now, Jesus said, draw some out and take it to the master of the feast. This took faith on behalf of the servants. What if they would have started to take what they thought was water out and give it to the master, and it would have only been water? He would have not been impressed, right?
He'd do this. Get out of my sight.
I don't know what he would have said. He would have been upset. But they obeyed Jesus.
I drank all of it.
Yeah. The people were excited because usually when you went to a wedding, they gave you the very best wine first. And then after everybody had already had a lot of wine, they started using their wine that isn't as good. But in this case, they didn't give them their best wine first, and then they waited till the end and they gave them the best wine that Jesus had made for them, and it was the best wine they had ever tasted.
In the world?
Yeah.
What if Jesus'
good wine is good wine.
What if Jesus' wine was in here?
I know, wouldn't that be cool?
That would be the most delicious wine ever in the whole history of the universe.
That's what the people were saying. They're like, this is the most delicious wine in the whole history of the universe.
What?
This is the beginning of signs that Jesus did in Galilee. he did a lot of other miracles too, and we're going to talk about those other miracles. There's at least 8 different miracles that we know Jesus did.
This is the first.
This is the first one, and we're going to talk about all 8 from now up until Easter. Every week we're going to talk about a different miracle. But this one's the first one. How did Jesus actually do miracles?
I have no idea.
He did them many different ways. Here, Jesus didn't say a word or blink an eye. He merely exercised his will, and the miracle was done. So we're going to learn different ways that Jesus did miracles. How do you think news traveled back then? Here, when people heard a news story, you know what they do? They call a reporter, and the reporter picks up the phone and says, oh, you've got a story? And then they type it all out, and they put it on a printing press, and they print it all out in the newspaper, and then people deliver the newspaper to your house, or you can go to a store and buy a newspaper or something like that. I used to deliver newspapers when I was a kid. Do you believe it? That was my very first job.
What?
I know. I used to wake up really early in the morning and I delivered newspapers. But sometimes there was an extra story. If there was something very, very special, it was called an extra. That's why the newspaper boys say, what do they say?
Extra, extra.
Read all about it.
Yeah.
And then they try to get people to buy that extra part of the newspaper. So people that were just walking by the newspaper place, they would say, oh, I'd like to hear that story, and they'd give the boys some money, and they'd buy an extra part so they could read the special story. In Bible times, how do you think the news traveled? How would you have told somebody in Bible times? There wasn't newspapers, there wasn't radios, there wasn't computers, there wasn't Facebook or anything like that. How would news travel?
No.
Or no JKB News, no. No, you know what there was?
No.
You know what it's called?
No.
Word of mouth. Word of mouth. Do you know what that means?
No.
That means you would tell me something, and then I would tell you something, and you would tell him something, and he would go tell it to somebody else. So you might say, listen, you might say, did you hear about the wedding? And I would say, what about the wedding? And you'd say, somebody turned water into wine at a wedding. And then I would tell you, I'd say, hey, did you hear about the wedding? Somebody turned water into wine at the wedding. And then you would tell him.
on TV.
And then he would say, somebody turned water into wine at the wedding, and he'd go tell somebody else. That's exactly what happened. So everybody that knew about Jesus turning water into wine at the wedding, everybody told everybody else. Do you think that Jesus' miracles would become pretty popular among the people?
Yeah.
They'd probably say what? If you heard of somebody that was able to turn water into wine, would you want to meet him? Yeah. I bet people
Maybe.
would. I bet people thought, where is he? I want to see this guy. Maybe he can do other stuff. So we're going to have how many more miracles after today? 7 more, right?
Yeah.
7 more miracles we're going to talk about from now on.
Some more wine.
Yeah, yes. 7 more miracles from now until Easter, and we'll see all these really neat things Jesus did. Now, why was Jesus able to do these things?
Because he's the Son of God.
You're right, because he's the Son of God. See you next week. Bye.